everybody. Welcome back to Accepting Reality. Jake, how's it going?
We're back.
We are
Good.
back. So, in the last episode, we left off with our very, very trimmed down thoughts on how we can possibly reunite America. Now, I know this is the country where what, 500,000 Americans died killing each other in the Civil War. It was a very large amount. So this country has not always been a place where we can reunite peacefully. Let's just be honest about it. We fight a lot in America. But if we had the chance, if there were, if there's any chance, what do you think we can do to unite America? And I know you said a few things at the very end, kind of like set this up. So flesh out a little thoughts if you have any more of them, and if not, I can go. So,
Well, I think, like I said before, I think one of the biggest things was eliminating Roe v. Wade,
yep,
and that's been done. Hasn't eliminated abortions, but it's got rid of the main cog in it. So that's huge. Um, I I think that there has to obviously be more of an emphasis on church, and you could even start with just saying religion in general, because not a lot of people have religion right now in general. Now, depending on what religion you're looking at, some can be completely the opposite. Obviously, if you pick up like Islam, that's not what I mean. But I think you need to start with more of a prioritization of religion, and then also obviously combine that with Catholicism, daily rosaries. There just needs to be more of an emphasis on working together with um, Bible verses. I mean, you don't even have to use like Catholicism. You could just quote just the Bible in general
yeah,
and use that as a means of working together. I do think there needs to be attitude changes in terms of like not everybody has to be right and look right to try and save their reputation. It's all about pride. It all comes down to pride,
yep, yep,
because all these people, they will uh, go against their beliefs to make decisions. Politicians will do this all the time. Go against what they believe to save their reputation, because all they can think about is their careers and the
yep.
future of what's going to happen to them. But I know you said about the family. I agreed with that. I think that's why the abortion is so big, because I think that's a huge key in upstarting this whole process. But I would just start there, just to like just put prayer in schools, and
Mm-hmm.
make it more of a priority to promote people to work together, not vilifying a specific group of people
Yep.
with a red backlight in front of a building
Well,
on a Thursday night.
I'll play devil's advocate for one thing. Many people have told me that Catholics in particular vilify the most groups of people. What would be your answer to that? Because we don't condone the perverted lifestyles or the sinful choices. We are the vilifiers, you and I. So what would be your response to that? Because I've answered it several times, but for the sake of the podcast to have our listeners hear it.
Um, I would say that that's what we believe in, and I would counter and say, well, I'm sure whoever this person is, I would say, I'm sure you believe that committing murder is wrong.
Yep.
And they would say, yeah. And I would say, well, then that means that I could say that you're vilifying murderers.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? Is it
Yep.
because, oh, it's because you believe that murder is wrong? Oh, okay. Well, I believe that, homosexuality is wrong. So
Yeah.
that's why it's just based on your belief. So that's their perception. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
the same thing. Like, it's a sin when it comes down to it. It's a mortal sin.
Yep.
Murder and homosexuality are both in the eyes of God sins.
Yep. And that was my answer, but I thought for the sake of the podcast to try to, reinforce what we believe. Now, I have thought about this very, very deeply. I will say that. And I think basically from a wide perspective, you bring you place God above government and it all trickles down. And what I mean by that is if God's the center of everyone's life, that means he's the center of a husband's life and a wife's life. And they believe that God has brought them together to live till death do they part as a union. And then they're supposed to bring in children. And then those children are supposed to be raised up with God as the center. So then it doesn't matter what kind of sick and twisted people are in the public schools talking to 5-year-olds about their surgeries. Those kids have been taught by their parents to be to value God above else and to love God. So then those parents will not tolerate the perverted public schools, and those teachers will be out of a job because either the parents will stop sending their kids or the parents will get the teachers out of there because of the extensive backlash. So that's then the public schooling system turns around. And then honestly, if we could stop public schooling for as a majority, I'd be all for that, but I understand life happens and not everyone can homeschool. I'm 100% agree with that. I'm not here to shame anybody who goes to public school. My wife went to public school. All that said, so now we've got the building blocks. The children are raised right because the husband and wife are together. There is no more no-fault divorce. I don't know if many people know this, but Ronald Reagan, when he was governor of California, was the first state to enact a no-fault divorce law where you could just say, I don't want to be with them anymore, and you could get a divorce by a judge. Um, There'd be no more no-fault divorce. The parents would be together. The kids would be raised right. The fathers would play an active role in the household because we all know it's proven when the dad is not there, the kids are more likely to go into crime and drugs and, degeneracy. So the father would be an active role. The head of the family would be there. The mother would be supportive and the mother would help support the family just as the husband and wife work together as God intended. So now you have the family unit solid. Then there's nothing else that can beat it because then those people won't tolerate politicians supporting abortion or politicians supporting transgender drag queen story time at the library for 7-year-olds. It won't happen because the family unit is solid. And once that family unit is solid, everything else will fall into place. And it won't be a matter of if, it will be a matter of when. And that's how I think you reunite America. If you bring God back to the family, nothing can stop it. I've thought about this extensively. I think that's the simplest way to put it because all the other little situations are affected by that family unit being solid and being solely focused on God and the next life. Because while many people in today's society, especially America, because we're so worldly, are always focused on the here and now, no one wants to talk about how we're all going to die because everybody is.
Right.
We don't live for this world, or at least we shouldn't live for the world the way we do now.
Right.
Obviously, you want to enjoy time with your family. God gave you your family. You want to enjoy time with the talents God gave you because God gave them to you. He wants you to do something with them. But we don't, ultimately, the end goal is not here. This is a finite time. We really need to bring that back into the view for many people is that there's a heaven and there's a hell. And you've got to choose where you want to end up. So.
So, what would you say to the people? Because I mentioned prayer in schools. Let's just say public schools are they're never going to go away in this
Okay.
scenario. They're
They're
always just
never.
going to be
Yeah.
around. And prayer in schools would be a good idea, in my opinion. But what about the people that say, well, this is one of the rights we have is a freedom of religion,
Yep.
and I don't want my kid because I'm not Catholic going to a public school and saying Catholic prayers. Do you just not put it into public schools for that reason, or do
Well,
you just say then you don't have to go to public school? What do you say?
where's the teacher's right? What if the teacher wants to say a prayer and the classroom's there? Where's the teacher's freedom of religion?
Well, I guess that would be the
Yeah.
parent would say, like I'm the parent. Okay,
Yeah.
my name is I'm a mom.
Your
I
name is
am
Karen.
no, my name is I'm gonna go with Bethany.
Okay.
Okay. My mother and father were highly huge protesters during the Vietnam War. I'm all
Oh
about
no.
love and peace. They may have had some plants, at some point in their life. And so I've raised my children. I am a single mother. I've raised my kids to think independently. I don't want them to go to school and to pray. That's not, they don't want to pray. Why should the teacher's right to pray trump my kid's right not to pray?
No one's making your kid pray, but
The,
why
the,
can't
the, the teacher's praying in front of them. I don't want them to pray.
Well, see, you can't tell people what to do, Bethany, just like your parents were fighting for that same right to not be told what to do.
Well, then I'm gonna pull my kids out, and then they're not gonna have any education then. So that's
Well,
your fault.
well, nope, that's your own fault. You were charged with the responsibility of having children. No one
Hate
made you
speech,
have
hate
kids.
speech, hate speech. No, I think it's because I've heard that argument before. It's like
Yeah.
it's like, well, like what if the school mandates it? What if the school says which would be I think would be crazy, but if a school mandate says we're gonna have like the principal's Catholic and he's like I think it would be good for the school to
Everyone
say
has to
a
say the
daily prayer.
rosary at noon. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a Muslim kid named Al Shabar or something, and the dad does not want the kid to say the rosary. Then I guess you just tell the kid just did not go. He
Well,
just
then
can't.
he can excuse himself. Then because no one's taking away that freedom. But if a public school or a town wants to lead that prayer, that's always how it's been. We had I don't know if many people know this about American history, but the colonies were pretty much all divided up by the religion you practiced.
Mm-hmm.
The South was Protestant, usually Baptist or Calvinist. The North had some Catholicism, and they had the Puritans. And then there was one state, which it's ironic that no one figures this out. The state that's spelled Maryland, that
Yeah,
was founded by Lord Baltimore, who was an archbishop, and he founded the land and he dedicated it to the Blessed Mother. So,
yeah,
if Baltimore, Maryland sound familiar to anybody? That's because it was a state of solely Catholic people coming over to the New World, and it was dedicated to Mary. So
yeah,
there's always been differences of religion, but now we're trying to go, well, that means there can be no religion. No, there was always religion. There was always religion in America. That's why we came here. That's why the Pilgrims came here. They didn't want to be part of the Church of England. They wanted
yeah,
to do their own thing.
yeah. It's interesting. I think that what people will try to do is they try to, in which is kind of funny, they try to incite or cite the Constitution when it fits their rights or their objections
Yep,
to rules, but like the Second Amendment is something that they can argue with all day long. But as
yep.
long as it trumps their First Amendment right,
Well, even the
then
First Amendment, they don't want hate speech. Hate speech isn't real. Let me just
no hate
establish
speech
that
is free
now. Hate
speech.
speech is not real. Hate
Hate
speech is
speech
not
is free
real.
speech.
Um, so with the religion, I just thought of this. The day before Roe v. Wade got overturned, this ruling kind of got put to the back burner because obviously Roe v. Wade getting overturned is way more important. But a high school football coach got fired because he would kneel and pray after every game in front of everybody, and the school fired him because of the backlash from the Bethanies, like you just explained. Um,
Yeah,
and he won the
he won
case.
it. Yeah,
So they have to, because he wasn't making anyone else pray. He just wanted to pray and thank God after every game to show him that he was doing this not only for just for himself, but he was doing it for God. I think that's a beautiful thing to do, to publicly do that, because it's not easy to do that in America today, because whether we want to admit it or not, we are very much an anti-Christian society. Very much
yeah.
so.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I know he won. I know that came out a few weeks after the Roe v. Wade decision. That he won that, which is good because that's insane.
Like
Um,
why he wasn't making any of the players pray. He just wanted to pray. And players joined him, but he never made them. It was never like you're off the team if you don't kneel with me.
so isn't that crazy how like he got fired? I'm guessing majority of the reasoning was because of the backlash from the parents. So
Yes,
the school decided like I wonder if did the school tell him he can't do it and then he kept doing it, and then they
I
fired him, or were
believe
they just
so.
like on the spot?
Yes. I believe they
Okay.
told him and he knew it was his right. So he stuck to his guns and he
Yeah,
won.
so why wouldn't he did he sue the school?
Yeah, that's why it went all the way up to the
Did he get any like compensation?
I believe they ordered him to get full compensation for time lost. Yeah.
Because like a school telling me I couldn't pray, or
Yeah.
anybody telling me I couldn't pray, not just a school. That's insane.
Especially in America. That's the
Yeah.
be and I'm trying to phrase this. When the 60s happened and the revolution and the hippies and all that stuff, um, we really became a country against God. And now, like, I don't know if you've ever had I've even had people give me and my wife weird looks when we say grace at a restaurant. Like it's just
Oh, I don't even look around. I don't
I
even
don't
care.
look around either, but sometimes you never get that feeling that someone's staring a hole through you.
I see. I sometimes get the opposite feeling. Like I think that they're looking at and then like kind of being like, oh wow, that's kind of nice. You know,
Okay.
someone is actually praying. But I
Well,
know what you're
you
saying.
live in a nicer state. Okay, remember where I live. Uh,
Chicago,
yeah.
Chicago.
So
Yeah,
it's just we keep hammering on the religious side of it because I think that is what we've lost in America, and that's what I think that's why we're so easily divided because we've taken God, who's supposed to be on the throne, and we've put the government. Now the only thing that matters to people is who's in charge of making laws. It
yeah.
doesn't
Well,
matter your soul anymore. Your
I
soul is
think it's
nothing.
because so many people have had that same mindset of, well, this is a country that has freedom of religion. There should not be. I think that's what a lot of politics think or politicians think is that there should not be somebody who is the president or some other high-ranking position that is making their decisions based off of religion because they think it shouldn't be. I mean, John F. Kennedy was quoted as saying he was a Catholic. I don't think he was. I don't know how well he practiced because of all the things that he did in his life and just the Kennedys in general. But he was quoted as saying because he was Catholic. He says that there's no place for religion in the presidency.
Yeah.
So it's like I
But
don't know.
but where does morality come from? Most morality, most laws come from religion. Very
Well,
few things can be discerned without religious law, without religious morality.
well, that's an interesting question because then it would come down to what is the decision making process for different laws and rules in
Yeah.
America? Is it based off of morality or is it just based off of the Constitution? That, hey, listen, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and everything that we've created, that is what it is.
Yep.
And our interpretation of the rules is what we're going to use to make future decisions. Based, you have all these different court cases about some dude is I don't know is at a concert and he says something and somebody gets offended, so they call the police. So that's and then maybe it gets taken all the way to the Supreme Court. So then the Supreme Court will rule that it is his First Amendment right. Now that is something that is their interpretation of the law, which is correct.
Yep.
But I don't. They're not saying that like, well, he was wrong to say that morally, therefore we're going to deny him that right to say whatever he wants. But yes, it is an interesting question to say, well, what then? How far does that go? I mean,
Yeah.
in terms of like the Roe v. Wade decision, when
Yeah.
it was first enacted, that was not done under the pretense of morality. That was done under the assumption of this right to choose.
Oh, it's actually
Eventually,
the right
what
to
it evolved into.
privacy. Yeah. I'm tired of people saying that you can have laws without morality. That literally contradicts itself.
Yeah,
Laws or are moral standards. That's literally what it is. You can't steal. Why is that? It's wrong. But where does it say it's wrong? It's wrong. Like
yeah,
that's, you know what I mean? It's a moral standard that we as a society believe needs to be kept. You can't murder children in the womb. Why? Because it's wrong. But why is it wrong? Because you're killing a baby.
yeah. Well, then
Like,
it's like then that's when it gets into such a complicated issue of they have to bring scientists in and they have to prove
yeah.
it medically, and it's like it just gets away from the main point
Yep.
is that it's a baby,
Yep.
or this is wrong because of X. You don't have to pull in 25 different experts of three different fields to determine, like, people inherently know what's right and wrong.
Yeah, and that's another thing is that our culture has suppressed the concept of personal responsibility, obviously, and any sort of self-sacrifice. That's why marriages are at a 52% divorce rate, because marriage is a ton of self-sacrifice.
Yeah,
I've been married for less than a year, so I'm sure I'm going to get told I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. But even being engaged and getting married is a self-sacrificing time in your life. And we're not raised to do that. We're raised to do whatever you want to make you feel good at every time as much as possible.
yeah. the search for discomfort is very low, because when you have something that's a big goal, there's going to be discomfort that comes along with it. So you almost have to. It's weird. It's like our brains are so wired to hate discomfort,
Yep.
but you have to have discomfort to do the things that matter.
Yep.
So it's an interesting chemical, almost in a way, imbalance, because you have to go against what you naturally think.
Yep.
So it's weird, but yeah, it's all about not being so selfish. Again, that comes down to pride,
Yeah.
and that's all it is.
It's all pride. And that's why I believe if God became the center of the family again, then that would not be hardly an issue anymore. Because if you're raising your children with God as the focus, you know to teach them pride is wrong. We must sacrifice for others, just as Christ sacrificed for us. And the husband sacrifices for the wife by working long hours to provide for her and the children. And the wife tries to be patient and caring for the husband when he may not be acting in the most appropriate ways. Something like that, for example. Those are things you only can do if you have the mindset of, I am not only looking for myself. I care about others and I want their happiness more than my own. And that's gone. You don't see that anywhere in America today, at least amongst the youth that I've friended and interacted with in my life. There is no self-sacrifice.
Well, the Bethany's coming for you.
I'm sure
So
Bethany's coming for me. There's a lot
she
of Bethany's that hate me.
she is determined.
And honestly, I don't know how we bring people back to God. What would be your answer to that? What do you think is the best way to try to do that? Because we both agree it needs to happen if we want America to really heal without everyone going crazy. How do we do that first step? Or if you have any idea, because I have some theories, but
Um, I mean, there has to be a realization of what is the right approach to how to live your life. I mean,
yeah,
if,
yeah,
if you're living your life to make money and to be financially secure, and that's really all you're thinking about right now, you're doing it the wrong way. If you
yeah.
live life to save your soul, then there's going to be decisions you're going to make that align with that. How do we get people to go towards God? I mean, well, that's a whole nother issue. But the big way is well, first you get rid of the Novus Ordo. That's why I said in the last episode you need to
Yeah.
have some alignment with a correct pope, because there are so many churches that are Novus Ordo that is. I mean, I don't know. I'd be interested to look at what's the population or the percentage of people that are Novus Ordo in that go to the Novus Ordo Mass. It's so much, because you can't go down a street without seeing one or two Novus Ordo churches within a 10-mile period. Or,
The
frame.
attendance has fallen off a cliff in the last 30 years. I've watched Dr. Taylor Marshall, he advocates for the same thing. He believes America will be much better if the Latin Mass is restored across the country. Um, and he said if he studies this for a living, that's what this is how he makes his money. Um, he said the attendance is falling off like crazy, and there are hardly any people under 30 that go.
Let's see how many. I'm looking this up real quickly.
How many Americans identify as Catholic?
I'm gonna try the go to a mass. Um, about half of cultural Catholics say they attend mass at least once in a while, including 4% who say they attend weekly, 28% who attend once or twice a month, or a few times a year, and 15% who say they attend less often. So even if that's like
Where
the
was that
right,
from? Just curious what source you got.
pewresearch.org.
Oh no, those are really good. Pew is very good. They're
So
really good.
even if that's right,
Yeah.
like even if those numbers are correct, that's still a large number of people.
Yes.
And those number of people are influenced by like their family, and they influence their family as well. So that's a lot of people. So, but my point is, saying at face value that says, "Oh, well, you need to have the Latin Mass reinstituted," that doesn't just change what language the Mass is in. That
Yeah.
changes the entire belief system, the dogmas,
Yeah.
the sacraments, and how you prepare for life after you die.
Yep.
So that's why I think you need to, because you can't. I mean, I don't know what other way you would do it. You have to do it in that way. You have to start with the churches. You have to start with the attendance. The more people that attend the traditional mass, the more the country will shape to be a different way, as long as they're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, because and I hate to break this to people, then half of the no, I think 80% of the politicians will never get voted in again because there
Yeah,
is no compromise. If you truly have found the true faith, you can't vote. I think we were talking about this the other day. Even if somebody is 99% correct, they want to lower taxes, they want to increase freedom, they want to shut out the enemies, they want to defend the nation and they say, but I support unregulation of abortion, you can't vote for them. There's no compromise. You can't support that grave of a sin.
no,
So then the politicians, if they want to keep their job, will not will not say that stuff anymore. Because we will in a sense take advantage of their worldliness. I know that doesn't sound correct, but that's bluntly
yeah,
how it'll happen. If we make it clear that we will only vote you in if you do this, they will do it because they're nothing more than puppets who just want the job.
yeah. I mean, it's a ripple effect.
Yes,
It's this. There will be a lot of things that will happen and stem from putting the church back into place. Because when was the greatest time in our country?
the
It was,
40s.
yeah, it was after World War II,
Yeah,
after the Depression, from 19 probably 40. No, I'd maybe go a little before that. 1937, 38, up
yeah.
until the mid to late 1960s when Vatican II was really making
Implemented. The new
its
mass
way.
came
Yeah.
around in 1970 in America. So,
So it's like that's your gold standard.
yep,
So what did you do to get to that standard? Well, gee, there were people that would go to church every single Sunday, and their whole lives were based off of going to mass and the sacraments and daily mass. I mean, geez, that study referenced that less than 20% of people say they go to mass a few times a year. You're talking about people in the 40s that went to mass every day. And
yeah,
if they didn't, well, that means that was like somebody was gravely sick. I mean,
yep.
that's not something that was taken lightly.
Yeah, I mean, to put it in perspective, um, the NFL team, the Baltimore Colts, because they weren't the Indianapolis Colts yet, they would go to mass every Sunday as a team
Yeah,
before their game.
yeah,
Where does that does not happen anymore. I can confidently say that does not happen anymore. And it wasn't like a Protestant, it was the Catholic Mass. It was the Latin Mass every Sunday before the game. That's crazy. I mean, to think about it now with our culture and especially in the sports culture, that every Sunday they did that.
yeah. I mean, you can find pictures of Vince Lombardi in the locker room before games and on the field with a rosary in his hand.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and he's one of the most iconic figures in
The trophy's
NFL
named
history.
after him.
So it's like that just shows you the attitude. It was like you couldn't go a day without saying the rosary. And now what's it like? How many people say the rosary a day?
Oh, maybe 10% of the population, and
And
then
what was the command at Fatima?
pray the rosary every
So
day.
and this is the thing that gets me about people that maybe don't necessarily believe in what Catholics believe in. It's like, okay, Fatima, the Our Lady told the children that more people needed to say the rosary.
Yep.
Or something would happen in the next 20 to 30 years that would be worse than World War One. There would be a worse war, and then what happened? World War Two, and that was a
The,
million times worse than
that
World War
was the
One.
bloodiest war, yeah, humanity
So
ever saw.
why don't we look at that and say, gee, these kids didn't have any idea. It wasn't like they came out in 1960 and said, oh, by the way, this is what we were told. They were telling people in 1917, if we don't do this, we're being told that they're, and World War One in Europe was terrible. I mean, especially, Spain and France and England, they they knew what was coming, and people still didn't do it enough to change the mind.
Yeah. The people at the time. Now, how many times did Our Lady appear at Fatima? What was it, eight? Seven times?
I want to say nine actually. Was it
Nine?
was was it?
Was it May?
October through May. Is that what it was?
I think it started in May. May, June, July, August, September, October. Or was it six? Because it wasn't October the miracle and that was it?
Hold on, I gotta look this up now.
Yeah, I think it's
Why don't I know
important. You would
this?
think, we just talked about how important the rosary is and Fatima is, and yeah.
Da-da-da. 6.
Yeah, that's what I thought. 6 months.
Oh, I'm thinking of the 13th day of the month. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean 13th, and then it ended in October.
With the sun coming down.
Right.
Man, my wife and I talk about this a lot because she's converting to traditional Catholicism and she wasn't, we got married and she wasn't Catholic at all. She agreed to everything that that somebody marrying into the Catholic Church would have to agree to, and she's just starting to convert now. She didn't understand why we valued the rosary so much until now. And she sees how important and how powerful and how necessary, I was about to say how necessity, because I'm intelligent, how necessary it is for your salvation and how important your salvation is because no one talks about it anymore.
No, no, they don't. It's forgotten.
It's unbelievable. We have a time where I think you and I can agree the civil unrest is pretty bad. Maybe we're just not used to it because we were very lucky, but the civil unrest is awful. And
Yeah.
now we're like, here, let's do no prayer, no meditation, no way to break off from the world and focus on God who made you and wants you to go to heaven. Let's just end it with fighting every 5 seconds, read every social media post about every problem, every political thing, and you'll feel better about it mentally. No one will go shoot up schools, nothing bad will happen. We're asking for trouble, and I think we're getting to like the warning signs like must turn back to God now, or who knows what'll happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like, they always talk about the hand of God ending the world, and it's like, how could he have not ended the world at this point with all the stuff we've done? But we just something needs to happen soon.
I'm with you. I agree 100%. And I do pray every mass that I'm at that that something happens, that maybe it's an act of God, maybe it's something that the people do that God inspires someone to do. But I truly pray and I want everyone in America to succeed and I want the country to go on a better path than where we're on now. So maybe that's all we can do, and then let God take care of the rest because we really need to come back together.
Yeah.
It's not getting any less tense, I think is a good way to describe it.
Yeah. And just the attitude of people is just becoming more and more bold in what they believe and what they want to push
And
on people.
bold in sin. We should reference that because I believe that Catholics and people who have the truth need to be more bold too. Because if sin's going to be bold, we must be bold to match it, match the
Mm-hmm.
intensity.
Yeah.
So, well, I think that's a good point to end on. Um, Thank you everybody for listening. You can find us, DJ Media, on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. YouTube will have the full podcast uploaded along with other short form content starting up this month of September. The podcast in its full form available on YouTube, available on Spotify, available on iTunes, and I believe Amazon as well carries it. Um, so yeah, again, Facebook and Twitter. If you ever want to ask a question, and I think we're going to start this, if anyone listening ever wants us to discuss something or has a genuine question for us, direct message us on Facebook or Twitter, and we will answer it the next time we record. And then please make it clear in the message if you want us to read your name off, because we will keep your name private, but please make it clear to us, or we will keep it private just by default. We don't want to dox anybody by accident. So we're gonna
Name,
oh boy,
address,
social.
social security
Yeah.
number. Yes.
Don't do
We need
that.
to verify.
YouTube, it was a joke. I don't want to get penalized for this. So thank you oh, excuse me. Thank you for everybody for listening. Facebook and Twitter. DJ Media, YouTube, DJ Media, where you can find the full podcast and you can listen to the full podcast audio format, Spotify and iTunes. Jake, any last words?
Um, no, I don't think so.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.